Hello, and welcome back to season 2 of the ParentCamp Podcast. I am April Draine, and today we are joined by two more voices. One you know and love, Miss Julie Pile, president
Hello.
of ParentCamp. Thank you, Julie, for jumping right on in. She says hello to you, and we will make sure that you hear from another voice. You will know him as, we call him YF Lou. He will explain to us his full name, but we will call him YF today. He is a very involved parent in the Christina School District there in Delaware. He's also a school board member. He's part of the
I
National
am.
PTA. He has so many other titles, but I will let him fill in the gaps. YF, can you say hello to our listeners?
All right. Well, hello everybody. So my name is YF Lou. It's actually short for Young Fei. It's got a funny story about this. I kind of changed my name to YF during my school board election,
Oh,
where my opponent also had a name who's also Chinese, actually,
oh.
where his first name started with a Y also. So I usually joke I am the first Chinese American to become a school board member in the state of Delaware who defeated the second Chinese American who ran for school board.
Listen, I love a good story. I love a good story. Awesome. Well, Wyatt, thank you for joining us. If you could just tell us a little bit more about yourself, because you have such an amazing story and such a connection that we'll jump into shortly. But if you can just fill in the blanks, tell us a little bit more about yourself and what you do there in the state of Delaware in the school district, and if you want to even mention about your profession.
Sure. So I'm a parent. I have two boys. Actually, one of my child is on the autism spectrum, and I have basically full custody of my kids. What some of the things that I have noticed is like, well, as a parent, it's very difficult sometimes to engage with the schools.
Mm,
And a lot of the times there's a lot of disconnect and miscommunication when it comes to some of the issues revolving around parent engagement. There's also some issues revolving around really how the parents can make that understanding on how we can kind of help the schools.
mm,
So some of the example would be, well, how can the parents at home help reinforce some of the things and some of the competencies or some of the knowledge that has been taught at school?
mm.
And not necessarily have to be homework, but anything that the parents can do to understand what's going on so we can kind of support the school and support the child in that journey of learning. And that's kind of where I started as a school board member journey because, I really want to help the school district provide this parent voice
Mm.
where we can better fine tune and improve upon on the communication where it truly becomes a more team-based decision-making process for the student outcomes.
Speaking more, okay, so I know you mentioned that you're Chinese. You have two children, one on the spectrum, and you're an involved school board member. From the parents' aspect, what barriers have you seen? And that word will be used several times in different ways, but I just want to start
Sure.
from the just from your ethnicity and from like communication piece and speaking also for or representing for your child. Have there been any barriers that you saw as a parent that also encouraged you to become part of the school board? If you can speak more about that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And just let me preface a little bit about the barriers. Professionally, I'm a hospital administrator that oversees quality assurance performance improvement. And some of the things revolving around improving the quality of care for healthcare is really to remove potential barriers or obstacles in other ways
Mm,
to kind of advance that message. And now, kind of going back, it's like, wow, it really translates to all walks of life, especially when it comes to a person-centered outcome. So for healthcare, it's patient-centered, education, student-centered.
mm,
And a lot of the times, what I'm kind of noticing is that, there's a lot of very well-intentioned policies, but it's not quite executed in the way that is going to fully address some of the challenges.
mm.
So, Right. So, I would say being a one and a half generation Chinese American, I kind of saw public education in both China and also Lewis, Delaware. I went to Cape Henlopen School District and went through the public school system there. Where during that time, like I kind of learned a lot from like the student side. But now flip over, I'm now a parent, and
Mm,
I'm noticing a lot of these, barriers. And just for the record, it's not like an intentional gatekeeping,
right.
but sometimes these barrier has actually created unintentionally as ways to kind of makes it difficult for parents to understand or engage the schools. One of the examples that I have shared with the school board, the school district and the board, and also some of the educators is one of these programs that the students use called iReady. It's a software that kind of
Oh,
help
yeah.
reinforce the learning for the students. However, it's just one little example. It's very difficult for parents really to understand it and navigate um, what iReady can do and what can parents, engaged parents do to really help and reinforce and make iReady even more effective. So slowly, for example, because the district listened, they're now giving parents the ability to um, to access some of the iReady data so parents can kind of see it in real time. However, these are just like another step towards the right direction. But
Gotcha.
a lot of times, like a lot of these matrices and numeric systems and scores, it's difficult still for parents and even a lot of educators to really kind of see where the students are and also really what the educational climate the students could be at
Mm,
or could be headed to. So there's a lot of these challenges and barriers. There's like that knowledge gap where the understanding
yeah.
of how the education works and how learning works. The term pedagogy is a very complex term where it's like just a practice of education. It's like medicine. You practice medicine. You continue to get better and every child is different and their learning methodologies are different. And how do we, as parents, support the student in the schools to be successful?
Yeah, that ties back to there's a lot of education ease. So YF and I have a lot of things in common. Both of us being on local, I have been on local school boards. He's currently serving. I have in the past. I'm on the state board, and there is so much education ease out there just by nature, by the terminology that's used. It's intimidating to parents.
Mm,
It's like let's just get this into
Yeah.
plain old English.
yeah.
So everybody can understand no matter what their education background level is.
Speaking of educate ease, or say that word again, Julie.
Education ease.
Education ease, okay. And why? Can you give a definition of success when we talk about education?
Um, so right now I would say, there's a broader definition of success,
Okay.
where a definition of success from educational outcome can be something as simple as the the schools meeting their learning objectives and hitting the test score metrics, or the students are better adapt or equipped moving forward or moving up a grade to prepare from, like, for example, kindergarten to first grade, or from middle school to high school, or from high school to wherever they're going to head to. So that could potentially be successful. Or an individual who may be on the special education track where they are successful in meeting their special education goals and
Mm,
their interventions. So those are, various ways where we can achieve success. And I would say, like, a huge, absolutely crucial piece of that success really comes from at home.
mm. Say
Just
more.
from like, yeah, so from the numbers alone, we are looking, the students really spend only between 13 to 25% of their time in the schools. Now, what
Mm,
are we going to do to reinforce some of this back at home, right? There's also the summer learning loss. There's also
Hmm.
these vacation learning loss. There's a lot of these things where the parents can really kind of provide some of these reinforcement to have these students be successful. And it doesn't necessarily have to come from education. It could be special education. It could be some of their behavior interventions, or just the way that they can navigate through a very complex adulthood. And especially making now we have like AI, we have internet, we have social media, TikTok, all these things are competing for our attention. It's very important now that the teachers and the parents work together to really help bring about a much more well-rounded upbringing for our students.
I wanted to ask you, speaking on the parent involvement, we always use the word parent engagement.
Yep.
With you being a part of the school board as well as being a part of PTA, what are some ways from your lens as a parent, your unique perspective, what are some ways that you're trying to promote parent engagement or encourage it, especially for those, again, who may have the barriers when it comes to communication or speaking up for their child because their child is unable to speak up for themselves, or there's a
Right.
literacy barrier, or there's an ableism barrier? How
Hmm.
is it that you can encourage, or how are you trying to encourage parents to become more engaged as a school board member as well as being part of PTA?
So, you're absolutely correct. So these barriers are absolutely critical in kind of get the parents to participate. You see this in PTA, you see this in just amateur sports or just sports in general where the parents take their kids to, is that rarely do you actually see a parent who don't want to engage.
Mm,
I would say a vast, vast majority of parents that want to engage, wants what's best for their children. However, there's like the ableism or the language barrier or the transportation barrier that Julie mentioned, where it's that the parents is unable to because of very specific things that's preventing them from being there. Another one is me being a single parent at work.
yeah.
Um, I can relate to a lot of parents nowadays, especially in this current economic climate, is that we're basically juggling as parents between putting food on the table versus going to a parent teacher conference,
Mm,
or versus going to a school-based event to learn about the school and learn about some of the new ways the school can reach the children. And this is where, I really, really thought that, and still the case, where Parent Camp has become this very extremely effective means to provide this and provide this service, but also actively addresses and proactively find new ways to remove and reduce these barriers. So more and more parents who traditionally have challenges on physically engaging can actually participate and really feel heard and also provide very valuable feedback. Um, for the school district and the schools. Because really at the end of the day, if we're gonna put like the consumer versus the producer dynamic, the parents and the students are really the consumers, and we
mm.
really need to do a better job on hearing some of their feedback and also intentionally remove some of these challenges for them to participate into the school. So we know what we can do better on helping these students or providing some information for the parents. And it kind of goes back along with my professional background where we're trying to find quality improvements and performance improvement, quality assurance metrics, and also ideas to kind of better engage with our patients and patients' family.
Yeah, a
Mm.
lot of times, like those of us that are deep into the weeds don't see it. Where if you have somebody from the outside that isn't, can see something different that we don't see. And that
Yeah.
happens a lot of time in education, and that they've done the same thing over and over again, that
Yeah. Yep.
you're almost blinded to maybe some out of the box thinking.
Yeah. So why have, I mean, even piggybacking off of what Julie said, how long have you been a part of the school board Yeah, been a part of
Draine?
the school board there in Delaware, as well as in PTA, because I'm sure you've seen a lot of things, but how long have you been a part of both of those?
So I would say for over 2 years now,
Okay.
really getting into like the more advocacy and the policy side of public education. Um, However, I would say slightly longer, mostly from like the special education space, because and really that special education space helped give me that the inspiration and also the knowledge, and really realize really truly some of the difficulties, barriers that has been created or under appreciated,
Mm.
which kind of gives me that idea to actually search for these barriers. And really, these are truly barriers where willing, able, and engaged parents have been having challenges addressing.
So, how did you connect with Parent Camp? You started to mention it a little bit earlier about, and we know we always try to introduce our listeners, whether this is your first episode, or you've been rocking with us since the first season. But what about Parent Camp help bridge some of the gaps that you were seeing as far as the barriers that are facing parents and the schools there in Delaware, or just Parent Camp in general with what you're trying to do there in Delaware?
Sure. So before parent camp, we already know like some of the challenges with parent engagement. That's why a lot of these workshops provide childcare and food. So actually, I think it was 2023. Our principal at West Park Place found this grant by the Delaware Department of Education, and essentially it's to address these two very significant barriers for parents to participate, especially in elementary school. And they were like, "Hey, Mr. Luke, check this out. We have something really neat for to share with you." I'm like, "All right, what is it?" They're like, "Parent camp." I was like, "Oh, cool, parent camp. Well, tell me about this parent camp." They're like, "Well, like we were discussing before, and it's to address some of the challenges that parents can't make it in."
Mm.
And so what are they doing? Well, they provide dinner, they provide training, they also provide childcare because a lot of the times parents at nighttime
Yep.
it's almost like a skirmish to put all the kids to bed
Yeah.
because there's
Yep.
cooking, there's bills, there's all these things. And but a lot of the times where we really struggle to kind of have that mental bandwidth or cognitive capacity to pick up something else. So, the parent camp addresses that, but really like this further, to take this further because, any school, any organization can provide dinner and childcare, but it's really like that content. So, now we remove the barriers. Now, what
Mm.
kind of content is going to be delivered to the parents? So that's where this very unique group-based perspective comes in and really puts gives this parents can sit in this like the circle-based group to talk to each other, to network, but to also share some of the success story, but and
Yeah.
also
But
to
and
share
also,
some of their challenges.
yeah, yeah. And Julie, I'm glad we're always glad when you're able to be on, you or Laura, as being the founders of Parent Camp. When you hear stories like YF and others that we've had on, mention the challenges that they're experiencing, but then areas and ways that Parent Camp is helping to fill the gaps, not necessarily solve them all, but being a part of the solution. Does this sound like or look like what you and Laura had in mind when you all initially started Parent Camp years ago?
Yeah, actually, it is. So, because I am the parent and Laura's the educator, these barriers that we've been talking about with childcare and dinner, and, parents want to learn how to parent better, but they don't know where to go, and sometimes
Yeah,
they're embarrassed.
yeah.
And so it's providing that space that's not intimidating, and that the parents can just like focus on themselves, focus on just talking to other parents and getting validation that they're doing okay,
Yeah.
or that we're all kind of in the same boat and we can laugh about that. I mean, there's a lot of laughing that happens at parent camps because you start connecting and you share stories, and we're like, oh yeah, been there, done that, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so, and that's what we've lost in society a lot of times, is that community in the neighborhood. And so the whole goal is to get that built back together, so people have other people to lean on and support. I mean, one of my favorite things is seeing some people connect and then exchanging phone numbers, and you know, getting that village, that community, the neighborhoods kind of built back and connected, that interconnectedness.
I love it. Yeah, Parent Camp does try to make sure that you all are intentional. We're intentional about the time of day that Parent Camp is held for each individual school, like even doing things virtually. Sometimes there are virtual parent camps for those who can't physically get out. So I love that YF is bringing up some of the barriers or issues that not just the schools there in Delaware are experiencing, but a lot of schools across the country are experiencing, and how Parent Camp is just doing one small job of making sure that parents have a place and space to be more involved and more engaged. So throwing it back to you, YF, when it comes to, if there are some things, like, I don't know, a couple of things off the top of your head that you can leave with parents, because as Julie mentioned, sometimes parents don't know where to start. If they're busy just trying to decide whether it's providing food or providing my presence for my kid, I don't know, that's a hard decision. So what are some practical ways that you can encourage, or some things you can throw out to parents from what you've seen and witnessed from both the parent side, being a part of the school board and part of PTA, some ways that they can still be engaged, because the parents, they know that they're their biggest advocate for their kids, whether they know it or not. So what are some ways that you can encourage parents who are listening at this moment, of ways they can probably be involved?
Oh yeah, this is a fantastic question. So earlier, Julie mentioned that, parents get together and not have to feel embarrassed. That's actually a very, very important point, because a lot of the parents are afraid that they're asking questions that are stupid, or they're going to be judged. I will say there are no such thing as stupid questions. No, you are the parent. It's okay not to have all the answers.
Yeah.
Trust me. Like, even today, I am learning more things about parenting, that I thought I knew, but I really didn't. So, just to be humble, but also at the same time be okay to not know.
Yeah.
Just to continue to be curious and continue to remind yourself that you're the parents. And you can show some vulnerabilities to your kids, and you can let the educators know that you don't know, because remember, like, not like most of us as parents, we're not educators. It will be woefully unfair for us to be like, oh yeah, I know how these things work.
Yeah.
Well, I know what my kid's competency is supposed to be at this age group. No, it's not. So it's okay to ask questions. It is okay to tell the teacher, I truly don't know. There's no shame in that game. I've been doing this since my oldest was in kindergarten. I tell them I really don't know where to look for resources. And the schools, they have the resources, the social workers, to really connect the parents, who are looking for these information. And they have been very, extremely helpful.
Julie, anything you want to add on top of that? I know your kids are graduating. Well, you have one graduating.
Yes,
Oh,
from
so you've
college.
been in this for a while. So how old are your kids now?
My daughter is graduating from college in a couple of weeks
Yay.
in May from University of Kentucky. Very proud of her. Did it in
Yeah.
3 years with dual credits.
Oh, wow.
And I have a son who is a freshman, and by the time this is released, he'll be a sophomore at University of Kentucky.
Awesome.
I'm thrilled because he has found his place in his group, and I think that's the whole thing too. As parents, is like our job is just to kind of help, and so eventually our kids can thrive and move on.
Yeah.
Not to keep them in our house and locked up, but I really encourage parents to be curious, I guess, too.
Yeah.
In that, if you don't know, just start asking questions. Somebody's going to know. Maybe ask somebody at the school district, maybe ask a teacher, maybe ask the front office secretary, because guess what? Those front office people know a heck of a lot. They know what's going on in the
Yes, they
schools.
do.
They have the
Yep.
pulse. Even the custodians know what's going on. So it's like, just don't be afraid to ask. Lead with curiosity, and really try to become in tune with your kids, like figuring out what they enjoy and helping them be curious to help them kind of explore their passions, because you don't know where that's going to end up for them.
I like it. So you all have already given us an A, B, and C. It's okay to ask questions. B, so that we can remove the barriers. And C, stay curious. So you've already given us the A, B, and C, Julie and YF. I love it. On the high level, YF, anything you want to leave with our listeners regarding barriers, communication, curiosity, parent camp, things that you've noticed with trends, anything that you just want to leave as far as closing remarks from today's discussion about removing barriers and staying curious on behalf of your child.
Yeah. So, definitely don't ever feel like you're being selfish when you're advocating for your child. Um, Always be curious and, do not feel ashamed that you don't have the answers for everything. Because right now, the jargon and the lingo that's being used in education is far outpacing the current parent understanding, even from the previous generation. And if anybody who's listening, who's in the Christina school district, if anybody tells you that, you don't know what you're talking about, even though you tell them that you are seeking out to understand, you let me know, because I will,
I'll go.
you
I'm
know,
listening.
I'm just saying, like, I'll be in your corner, because like
Yeah,
we're in a institution of learning,
yeah,
and when
yeah,
somebody openly tells them that they don't know, there shouldn't be a shame in not
No,
knowing,
no.
because
yeah,
we are all here to learn.
yeah. Good. I like that. I like that. Julie, any closing remarks from you regarding parent camp or just things in general from your perspective, seeing your kids all the way through to this point, graduating or furthering their education? Anything you would like to encourage or leave with our listeners as well regarding family engagement and removing barriers as well?
Well, definitely, as wife pointed out, it's like there's never such thing as a stupid question. If you have that question, somebody else does. And so, never such a thing as a stupid question. I think the other thing, too, is those of us that have, I would say, are kind of towards the end of the journey of the school of raising kids. I mean, you're always a parent for the entire life.
Yeah.
Is, make yourself available to those just getting started and going through.
Yeah.
Because you've been through it, you have lots of experiences to share, tidbits that you've learned along the way that can be really, really helpful to somebody kind of getting started. Like, just to give you an example, so, I follow a number of people on social media, and I've found this one gentleman, Dan Worry, who is a early childhood development professional, and he has these videos, and then he explains like the neurodevelopment and what the child's doing and things. I'm like, man, I wish he would have been around when I was raising my kids, because then I would have a better understanding of what my child was doing at that time frame. And so, really it's helpful having those different resources, and just sharing, like I share with my nieces and nephews, because now I have great nieces and nephews, and I'm like, hey, go follow him. It'll really help you out as a parent.
Yeah.
So just sharing things that you've learned with others.
I love it. Continue to share, continue to ask the questions, continue to stay curious. I so love it. YF, thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to just hear your voice and your perspective in this short amount of time. Julie, as always, we appreciate you being on as well. And to our listeners, thank you for rocking with us again in season 2 of the ParentCamp Podcast. More great things to come, more conversations to come, and we hope that you do glean from these conversations. Please continue to like, love, and share these podcast episodes as you hear them. And until next time, YF, Julie, can you give our listeners a good goodbye?
Thanks for listening.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Maya.
Take care.
Thank
Yep,
you so much,
it's my pleasure.
listeners. Awesome.